Hey everybody, welcome back to Leosophy. This is the last of the Self-Improvement General series. I'm going to take my glasses off because dang, they are kind of cloudy. Yeah, last one. And it's about actualization, which is the most broad word I could think of, and that's unfortunate, but it's also the best word for it. Because what is the end game of improving yourself? Well, one is to be happy, obviously, and healthy. Like Ben Franklin says, healthy, wealthy, and wise. But it's also about achieving your goals, the things that just make you specifically happy, and that's going to be more varied. The things that you want out of life and the things that somebody else wants out of life may be different. Now, most people have some overlapping goals. Most people want financial success, they want romance, they want health, as I previously mentioned. They want those sorts of things. But what's nice about that handy little umbrella term, self actualization, is you can start prescribing things to it that's not really applicable to the other videos in the series, nor to just cutting things into little facets like with mental fitness and intellectual fitness and physical fitness. So, what are some things that help people gear towards self actualization as opposed to just being stronger physically or stronger mentally or what have you? And the biggest things, they often fly in the face of the term self improvement because when we think of improvement, we think of getting better. And self actualization, a pivotal part of it is self acceptance. And I realize that that word has become in the circles I run in, and if you're watching this on BitChute, definitely the circles you run in, self-acceptance has sort of become a bad word because it's become a shield used by people who don't want to improve. You know, I'm 480 pounds, but I'm beautiful and healthy. And then, somebody who's actually beautiful says the same thing and they're furious. Why? Because they're telling the truth, right? So self acceptance is really becoming disparaged in people in this by people in the circles I run in. Well, it doesn't have to be. There's a yin and yang to this. There's a middle path to this, and it's very unfortunate to see people on one side reject health and strength and all the good things that I've previously talked about because they're somehow bigoted, and also on the other end, though, you have people who reject self acceptance, who reject being open to things that are good for you. Like, I don't believe the mainstream narrative about toxic masculinity, but I have firsthand seen people who literally they need a hospital and they won't because they think it's weak. Just because I'm bleeding from my spleen doesn't mean I need help. That kind of attitude. Well, again, there's a middle path between those two. You can be masculine without being this bizarre 1980s villain stereotype. You can be self-accepting and still want to improve. Is where I'm going with this. And self-actualization, being really happy, absolutely requires self-acceptance. If you ever reach a point where you do start attaining your goals, but it's not good enough, not because you want to improve, but just because you don't like who you are and you can't accept who you are, well, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to really be pleased, no matter how many goals you crush. We see this a lot among like celebrities. We see people who, they earn millions and they become household names and they win all these accolades and they don't mean anything to them. Well, why don't they mean anything to them? Well, the chief reason is because, a lot of these people, they're still harboring a very negative self persona in their own heads. They think they're an imposter. They think that the things that they've accomplished were not really theirs. They were part of a persona. You see this a lot among actors and singers because personas are popular. Ziggy Stardust is not David Bowie. Eminem is not Marshall Mathers. Madonna, one word, is not the same as whatever her flipping name actually is. You get the idea. And these personae, by the way, can be extremely useful if used properly. In fact, I would argue, for example, that a lot of David Bowie's personae were Jungian archetypes, including his shadow, and they were ways for him to get his material out there without actually feeling bruised by the rejection if people didn't like it. Well, that's great. That's fine. You can absolutely do that. So long as you also remember at the end of the day that the accomplishments that are made are you, are not a persona. You're not an imposter. These things weren't handed to you. It's very difficult for people who have a chief goal of improvement, of getting better, to also have a healthy view of who they are in the present. And the downside of that is it's kind of like the hedonic treadmill, but with regards to improvement. And we see this a lot with bodybuilders. Holy moly, the whole leave humanity behind. And this could be me being biased because I do prefer the whole Arnold Classic and all that. But dang, at a certain point, you got to look in the mirror and say, maybe I'm big enough. And that's an important component. And I don't want to devote the entire episode to talking about self-acceptance, but I'm just saying that right out the get-go, it's one of the biggest obstacles, I think, for self-actualization among the kind of people who would watch these videos, because behind self-improvement comes the desire to be better, but that doesn't mean that you in your current incarnation are not good enough. It just means you want to be better, period. The other biggest component, there's really two big ones in my opinion of self-actualization. One is, self-acceptance, and the second, and people often don't think about it as much, but you are the company you keep. And being friends with people who aren't accepting, being friends with people who aren't ambitious, who don't want to improve, who aren't happy with their lot in life. And by not happy, I don't mean because they want to change things for the better, but because they never quite fulfill what they want. Those are big deals. I'm a staunch advocate of the whole iron sharpens iron attitude, and creating little communities, whether they're in person or online, is very important. And if you want to be better in every sense of the word, including being happy, you have to have a circle of people who build you up rather than tear you down. It's one of the biggest downsides to the internet, really, because the vast majority, this is me criticizing the internet on the internet, the vast majority of social platforms on the internet are either a way of boasting about things that aren't important, which in turn makes people who watch it feel anxious because they compare themselves to this false persona that has been introduced. This is my 5 million square foot house and my team of baby seals that drive me to work every morning, etc. That's not good, because it's just boasting. It's not actually celebrating or appreciating accomplishment. And then on the other end, worse and more common, especially when the social component gets in, is just the crab bucket mentality. It's a lot of people tearing other people down. That's a lot of the internet. And by the way, this isn't me complaining or whining. Actually, people have been really great for the most part for me. It's just an observation, and it's something that I think is very important to remember, because you are the company you keep. And so if you do fixate on negativity and dwell on negativity, even if it's what seems to be like a positive negativity, like a lot of people who post progress and post these affirming things, there's sort of a subtext to a lot of them. And if you see something like that, instead of calling it out and then as such contributing to the more crab bucket component, best bet, just don't. It's that easy. Like it's way easier than ignoring something negative in real life, by the way. So those are my two big bits of advice regarding the last bit of self-improvement, self-actualization. Is absolutely try and improve yourself, but also accept the position that you're currently in. Nobody has ever been happy thinking that well, if I just lose this much weight, or put on this much muscle, or earn this much money, or buy this house, or buy this car, or get this girl, or what have you, if you have that attitude of I'm going to be happy if X happens, you are not, period. If you don't feel grateful and happy today, and I realize that a lot of you may have some stuff that makes you unhappy and ungrateful, maybe some really bad things, doesn't change the fact that if you improve, you'll be very happy for a short time. But if you want to really be self-actualized and be happy with your life, it starts with being happy with the current state. It's vital, unfortunately. I mean, that of course is barring, like, if you're watching this and you're, really needing painkillers because you're in a form of agony. I get it. Okay, yeah, you'll be happy when the pain stops. You'll be happy, whenever that works out. Sure, absolutely. But by and large, if you're watching this, chances are you have access to an internet connection, which means you have a device that displays it, which means that you're probably not hungry right now, because if you were, you'd be looking for ways to alleviate that instead of watching me. So, having an attitude, God, I hate that. I almost said an attitude of gratitude. Having a grateful outlook, how's that? And an accepting outlook of yourself. And lastly, a support system. Get in touch with people. Build a community if you don't have access to one. Get in touch with people who build each other up, who have similar goals as you. And that way you can really, on the bad days, you don't have to worry as much. And on the good days, you have people to celebrate with. So that's it. Like, share, subscribe, keep asking questions. Bye.